Hi folks, and welcome to the Gridiron Report. Look at the week's top stories in Fredericksburg Regional High School football. I'm Mark Coleman from the Riverbend Sports Network, and this is our state championship preview edition. A team from the Fredericksburg area will be representing in the VHSL football state championships this coming weekend. 3 area teams were still alive in the semifinal round. We'll recap those in just a moment, but first, let me introduce my panel of guests. First, from the Freelance Star, we have sports reporter Nathan Warters. Nathan, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Nathan also covers Virginia Tech Hokies athletics for the Freelance Star. You can follow Nathan on Twitter. He is at Nathan Warters. We also have assistant sports editor Justin Rice. Justin, good to see you again.
Mark.
Justin and Nathan, of course, are part of the wonderful crew of FLS Varsity, an undertaking by the Freelance Star focusing on area high school sports. To keep up with all of the latest in Fredericksburg area high school sports, you can log on to flsvarsity.com, and you can also follow them on Twitter at FLSVarsity. Now, ordinarily, that would be a wonderful lineup of guests, but wait, there's more. Joining us once again for a return engagement, we have the head coach from James Monroe High School, where the Yellow Jackets will be playing in their 3rd consecutive state championship game, head coach Rich Serbay. Coach, thanks for joining us. Good to see you.
It's a pleasure to be here, and I know that it's nice to be here because we won. I like that. It feels really good.
So which is more special to you? You're continuing this streak of 3 consecutive state championships or 2 consecutive Gridiron Report appearances?
2 consecutive gridiron. 2 consecutive gridiron.
Sure.
To be around such knowledgeable individuals.
I think the truth is they won. Coach was on the show last week.
It's a good sign.
He's not going to mess with that. He's not going to
I'm
mess
a
with that.
superstitious individual.
Well, maybe we'll be able to have you next week as well. That sure would be nice.
I'll come back.
Oh, excellent, excellent. Well, let's take a look at the games from the past week, and we will start with the 6A. 6A, Colonial Forge had to make the trek down to Chesapeake once again, taking on the strong Oscar Smith Tigers and falling 17-0. Nathan, you covered this game. It sounds like the field conditions were a little bit less than optimal. A couple of really strong defenses going at each other, though.
Really good defenses, and I think it's a shame that the weather kind of played the factor that it did, because we might have seen a much closer game had that been the case. But the quick offense of Colonial Forge that had been really relying on getting the ball outside to some quick, smallish playmakers. It really couldn't get going on those slippery conditions there on the field. Vice versa, Oscar Smith, they have an offensive line that averages like 300 pounds. They got a tailback who was just running it right up the gut, and he had 200 yards and 45 carries, and they scored 17 points, and that was the difference in the game.
Only 10 points offensively, though, right?
Right.
So that was their lowest point total. The Colonial Forge was able to hold them to the lowest point total by a pretty wide margin.
By far, their lowest point total was 27, but I think the rest of their point totals were in the 48 to 50 range. I think they also scored 60 on a couple of occasions. So to hold those guys to 17 was a pretty good thing for them.
So Forge finishes the season 10-4. They've got to feel like this was a successful season.
I think they do. I mean, afterwards, Coach Bill Brown was very disappointed, because I think he really and they had beaten Hilton and beaten Ocean Lakes in back-to-back weeks. That's no small feat, and they had the talent to keep up with those guys. And I think had it been a different scenario, they might have given them a challenge, and the disappointment was there. But I think when they look back at the season, 10-4 with that schedule, to beat Hilton and Ocean Lakes in the playoffs, that was a great season for those guys.
Sure. Now, looking ahead to the state championship, you've got Oscar Smith taking on Centerville. What do we know about these teams?
Centerville, they've been in that game a few times in recent years. Oscar Smith is loaded for bear. Their talent is watching them on the field, it was just really kind of a remarkable thing. They've got several guys being recruited at the highest levels, and it's going to be hard to beat those guys, I think.
Coach, in a muddy field, you like to have a team that can go straight ahead, right? Not a team that's speedy. Yeah.
In a muddy field, it fell right into Oscar Smith's wheelhouse. I mean, run the ball, big, powerful offensive line, pounded, eat the clock up, shorten the game a little bit. Colonial Forge is quick. I mean, they're all quick. All their receivers are quick. Their defensive backs. And I think it really hurts the teams that are quick and fast. And it bothered us a little bit down at Heritage, but it really affected Bill Brown, and I talked to him, and he was really disappointed in the way the field was.
They had 3 possessions, Colonial Forge, they had 3 possessions inside the 30-yard line. And I think all of us there thought they were going to capitalize on those. And every single time the weather played a factor. A guy slipped, interception, back foot pass. There was a lot of things that you don't normally see from that offense that really contributed to those struggles. And I think they looked back at those opportunities and knew that, had they been on a dry field, had they been on a surface where they could have, played well, they would have done a lot better. Also, Ocean Lakes, they're a very varied offensive team, and they throw a lot. But they do have because they have those big guys up front and they have that tailback who can carry the load. They were able to alternate their strategy a little bit, and Colonial Forge just didn't have that power game that they had.
Right.
So, Oscar Smith had to change some things because of the field. They were affected by it too, but they just had a little bit more talent to deal with it.
Yeah, it's interesting, Coach. I'm sure that on the wrong end of the score, the weather and the field conditions and things certainly impact your opinion of the game and the conditions. But the other team is facing the same challenges as well. Do you talk to your team about that fact that both teams have to play under the same conditions?
Well, you say, okay, both teams got to play. Both teams have to play on the same field. Okay, I understand that. But some teams are suited to play on this and some teams are not. And that just doesn't balance. It just doesn't balance. That's the way I feel about it. It just doesn't balance. Bill's team is an awesome football team, a lot of speed, a lot of quickness, and you can't have that on a muddy field. It's impossible.
Sure.
It's impossible.
It's like a mutter. It's like a horse.
Exactly right. You have horses that can run the Kentucky Derby in the rain, and you have horses that can't run in the rain. It's real simple.
It's not a surprise though when you face harsh weather conditions in the winter, or at least in playing in December, though, right? So I mean, it's unfortunate. You like for the weather not to have an impact on the final outcome of a game,
Right.
but the later you get in the year, the more likely that is to occur.
I think that's a weird Virginia thing where we play the bulk of the regular season. We may have talked about this last week. You play the bulk of the regular season, pretty nice weather.
Yeah.
But when you get to November, you get to December, those are going to be times where it's going to be cold, it's going to be soggy. That's how it's going to go.
Right.
I think Coach Serbay has a good memory of a muddy game back in '96 at Spotsy High School.
Yes.
I think sometimes it's fun playing in the mud, especially when you're walking off the field with a win.
Sure. That's right. Yeah, it certainly changes your opinion of it. Well, certainly don't want to take anything away from Colonial Forge. They finished the season 10-4, successful season, an appearance in the state semifinals. So congratulations to the Eagles on a very successful season. And that'll wrap up the 6A. Let's take a look now at the 5A. Well, in a rematch of 5A powerhouses, Briarwoods took on North Stafford. This was a bit of a wild game, lots of turnovers. It came down to a Hail Mary and a failed two-point conversion. Briarwoods coming away with a victory, 27-25 over North Stafford, getting revenge, breaking that streak that they had earlier this season.
Yeah, Briarwoods bounces back and sort of was in control, I think, from about halftime. And North Stafford manages, a big rally at the end. And it's just such a heartbreak for the Wolverines. You talk about 5 total points the last 3 years is the difference between the semifinals and the finals for North. Yeah, that's just an amazing stat.
3 consecutive appearances in the semifinals and 3 consecutive losses.
Yeah, and everyone it's not just been the 5 points. It's all come down to a play at the very end, no time left. And to go out like that is tough for a program that's, I think, on the right track and is really on the rise.
Oh, certainly. I mean, Briarwoods is an incredibly strong team, and to have beaten them once, they're the only team that's beaten Briarwoods in the last 3 seasons, I believe. Is that right? So, and then to almost do it again is really something else. Well, Briarwoods moves on and will take on LC Bird. This is going to be a pretty impressive matchup of 2 powerhouses.
Yeah, I think so. LC Bird is a team that I think a lot of media around the state have looked at this year and said this is a great team.
Right.
This is one of the best teams. I think a lot of teams would like to see LC Bird and Oscar Smith even see that game. But Briarwoods comes in, 3-time Division IV state champion. Of course, they had the winning streak that we talked about. This has been maybe the state's best all-around program the last 5 years or so. So this is going to be a great final. I wouldn't even go so far as to pick a winner there. I think that's just going to be a great matchup.
That'll be exciting.
I think LC Bird also, from the former Central region, they're the first team that could win back-to-back in some time from that Richmond area.
Oh, really?
So that'd be a feather in their cap too if they could pull it off. But that should be a really great ball game there.
Sure. Did weather play much of a factor in this game? I know the game was rescheduled basically to, is it John Champ?
Yeah, they moved to Champ for the turf, for exactly that reason, where you're not running in the mud. They're playing on the turf. So, probably not just, turnovers. And when you look at North Stafford's losses this year, I think in each one of those, when they turned the ball over a bunch, that's when they got into trouble. They weren't a real dynamic offense this year. They were going to hand it to purpose and run it. They had possession-type receivers, not down-the-field receivers. And as long as they could sort of play that game, manage their possessions, they were going to be in good shape. When you get into a turnover battle, though, things go badly.
So North Stafford has the Hail Mary pass at the end of regulation to pull within 2 points. Coach, you've got a 2-point conversion you have to go for, and the question is, what is the play call? Do you go with the guy who has gotten you there all season long, or do you use him as a decoy and try something else?
You go with the play that you practice. We practice 2 to 3 2-point plays every week. And, depending on what we're doing right and what we're doing wrong is the one we're going to use. He said in the newspaper, Joe said in the newspaper that he went with the play that he went with all year long. And they were just ready for it. And, Joe's a great coach. And when he made that call, you knew, and the kids all agreed with him on the call. So everybody was on the same page. It's just that Briarwood's come up with a great defensive stop.
Sure.
Yeah, you just they put the ball in Purvise's hands. He's been their guy all year.
He
Give it
had
to
run
him.
all over Briarwoods
Yeah.
at the previous meeting. He was pretty much held in check in this game.
Yeah.
But that, we agree. That was clearly the call that they had to make. Briarwoods probably realized that as well, though.
They're strength on offense, and Coach Serbay will tell you they're so big and strong up front. You just follow those guys and you give it to the guy who ran for 2,000 yards. I can't blame Coach Mangano for doing that.
About a yard short, as I understand it. So a yard away from tying the game, put it into overtime. It wouldn't have been the win, but it would have been for the tie to force overtime. So another heartbreaking loss for this North Stafford crew.
Well, what hurt North Stafford is they missed a couple extra points early in the ball game, and that's put them behind the 8 ball. And that you can talk about going for it at the end. Okay, great. But if you execute the beginning of the game, there was 2 times they missed extra points, which I'm sure Coach was distraught about, and that's what led up to that.
And not kicking failures. I think there was a snap failure that led to one, and then the pass wasn't caught, and it's little things like that that's going to make a difference. Yeah.
But special teams certainly an important part of the game, though, Coach. And we'll talk about your game in just a moment. But when you've got a very accomplished kicker on your team, we were talking before we started taping here. You are not averse to taking the 3 points. If you feel like you can get points on the board, you're probably gonna take that.
Well, I'm going to take it every time. I have a philosophy: finish every drive with a kick, whether it be a PAT kick or a field goal. I'm going to finish something. I'm going to get something out of a drive. I made one mistake or a couple mistakes in the North Stafford and in the Cortland game where we didn't do that. We missed a field goal and then we didn't go for a field goal. I believe if you get that close, you got to get points one way or the other. I'm not a firm believer in going for it on 4th down. I'm going to kick the ball.
Points, yeah.
Sure. Well, another successful season for North Stafford. Doesn't quite end the way that they would like, but they do finish the season 11-3. We'll move on now to the 3A championship. Well, in 3A, James Monroe goes down to Lynchburg and hands Heritage a 14-13 defeat. Failed field goal as the time expired, sailed wide left, and James Monroe comes home 14-13 victors. 3 years in a row they'll be representing Fredericksburg in the state championship.
Yeah, and to me, the story of the game starts with James' defense. It really starts with Antonio Coleman. James Monroe's sophomore defensive tackle. He's like they call him a great big baby. He's a young kid. He's a big old kid. He made 2 of the best plays that you'll see all season. An interception. Playing a defensive tackle, leaps up and makes an interception is a great play. Sort of sparks James Monroe offense in the first half, and they go down and take the lead. And then he bursts through with about 10 minutes to play on a point after and blocks it. And that's the difference in the game, 14-13.
Right.
And then, of course, it comes down to a missed field goal. Coach, I'm sure what's going through your mind? You've done everything you can. You called your timeout. You tried the freeze job on the kicker, and you just got to watch, right?
Just got to watch. We froze the kicker. And then we substituted a lot of our taller kids, and we turned around, we prayed. And we knew the kid wasn't a good kicker because we watched him in the warm-ups. He was kicking it all over the place. So we knew we had a 50-50 shot at this, and we were hoping that what they did was they packed it in the middle to try to stop Antonio Wynn. And we came off the edge, and I think the guy, actually you see it on film, he picks his head up.
Yeah.
He picks his head up and the ball sails left. He was looking at the rush.
It looked pretty close, right?
No, about 5-6 feet.
Okay.
5-6 feet. It sailed left. That's all that matters. It's all that matters is wide left.
Close doesn't count in this game.
No.
Coach, did you know that missed extra point early in the fourth quarter? Did you have a sense that probably was going to play a big role in the outcome of the game?
Yes, I did. I thought we'd get close enough for a field goal somewhere down the line. I thought we'd get close enough to maybe even score another touchdown. Some things didn't work out for us, and we didn't. But having that lead, blocking the extra point. If you looked at our team, our team went crazy on that, and they knew that we still had the lead, and we had a great opportunity to win this ball game. And I think if they would have made that, it would have been demoralizing. And so I'm happy. I'm really happy. The kid made a great play. He split the block, came right on in, and then stuffed it. Did a great play.
And I think the bigger story, the impressive thing for me, James Monroe's, their defense really won this for them, not by shutting down the other team. Just like in the Lafayette game, Lafayette was able to pile up rushing yards. Heritage's Frankie Hickson had 41 carries for 167 yards. They were going to keep handing him the ball. And but James Monroe, they just sort of stiffened as they got closer and made, just like in the Lafayette game, you make Heritage fight for every yard. You make them go 3 and 4 yards at a time. And I think in some cases Heritage may have gotten a little impatient, tried to throw some passes. I felt like that played in your guys' favor a little bit. And anytime they got away from Hickson, they sort of got behind the sticks and had a harder time sort of bogged down.
And they kept feeding Hickson, but Coach, you were telling me he never was really able to pull off a big run. His longest run from scrimmage, 12 yards.
12
I think.
yards.
Yeah, that's just like the Lafayette game. Same story where they kept feeding the running backs, but you never let them break a long one. You make them work for every yard. And when you do that to a team, there's a chance they're going to fumble the ball, turn it over. There's a chance they're going to take a penalty, get behind the chains, and now you're 3rd and 12, 3rd and 15, something like that. And you can't just hand the ball off.
Coach, Jay Scroggins had another great game. The statistics were not all that impressive. 12 of 24, 150 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. He also carried 12 times for 44 yards. As Justin mentioned, though, it was really the defense that won this game. When did James Monroe turn into this defensive team?
Well, I think it probably turned into the defensive team right after we lost the King George game. I think we had a come to grips meeting with everybody. We met with the whole program, JV and varsity, and we said this is it. We need to work harder in practice. We all committed to it, and we won 7 out of our last 8 games. We just worked harder in practice, and the kids started to mature. I think the maturity. I've got 4 sophomores starting on my defense who are going to be really good. That core 4 next year will be phenomenal. And they really started coming around. The seniors stepped up with Bevels. And the bottom line is our defense with my coaches. And my coaches do a great job with the defense. Really led us and led the way 7 out of 8 games.
I think your front 4, especially the guys you're playing on the line, they've matured, I think, a lot since that King George game for sure.
King George pushed us around, and the kids were embarrassed by it. That single wing, moved the ball down 2 yards in a cloud of mud, and they pushed it down. They won that ball game in the last 10 seconds. That was a heartbreaker. That was homecoming, even though it was on a Monday. That really broke our backs and made us look at ourselves and say, okay, what do we got to do to improve? What do we got to do to get better? And we did it, and that's what I like about these kids.
I think also tackling. I can't think of in the last 2 weeks the missed tackles for you guys. It's got to be a real low number, right? You guys seem to be tackling really, really well right now.
Our tackling was poor in the game we lost, and a lot of that goes obviously to Cortland. Has 3 great running backs. We didn't do a good job tackling in Cortland, but for the last 7 or 8 games, 7 out of 8 games, we've tackled great. I mean, we make contacts and we swarm to the ball. Don't give up yards after contact. That's our key. Don't give anybody any yards after they get hit. Stop them right where they are, and we keep teams in 3rd and long and 2nd and long, and it makes a big difference. Our tackling has definitely been the key.
I think, Mark, that's how you don't give up 20, 30, 40-yard runs, is the first guy that gets there, even if you get there after 6 or 7 yards, make a tackle.
Right. Yeah. Well, Coach, you guys get to make the trek down to Liberty University again, 3 years in a row, taking on Northside from Roanoke. What do you know about this team?
They're big, they're strong. They're not as good as a couple of the teams we've played. I'll be honest, North Stafford was awesome. We played them and, we survived that game. So we can survive anybody we play. They got 2 stud tackles, both are major college prospects. They've got an outstanding outside linebacker. I think their secondary plays into our hand because they play an umbrella type coverage, which I think is going to help Jay. Plus, being on turf is going to help us there. But they're big and strong. Their defense is really good. They live and die on their defense and their special teams. And they got a quarterback that's absolutely phenomenal. That quarterback carries them like Scroggins carries us. And that's what's going to be the key to the game.
What do you know about Northside?
I mean, I know the defensive tackle, right? It starts there. This is a kid, you saw a defensive tackle like that. Those kids change the game.
Yeah, these guys are game changers. I mean, Andrew Brown at Oscar Smith, he was the kind of guy that was disruptive in the middle, got his hand on some passes, and was just. And Chance Hall is the guy. He's a junior for Northside. He's getting the offers from UVA and Maryland and ODU, and they have another kid up front too who's really disruptive. And that's you got to kind of combat that and get around those guys. So. I'm sure that's going to be part of the game plan, getting around those guys and not letting them dictate what you guys do.
Well, we're not going to run at them, and we will roll out away from them. So, we've got some plans that we've got to do. And we think our offensive line does a really good job pass blocking, so we're good there. I don't know if we'll be able to root them out on the run, but I think if we can slash the ball off tackle, I think we'll be successful. You won't see any traps and you won't see any blast plays, trust me. Yeah, they're too good.
I think the good news is it sounds like Northside takes away exactly what JM hasn't really had to do the last 2 weeks. They haven't really had to go to the running game. Maybe it hasn't been there or they just have chosen not to. So, okay, Northside can take that away, and JM has certainly shown, okay, we can win without that part of our game.
Sure. How important is it that this is the 3rd trip back to the state championship? You're playing at Liberty University. Is it fair to say that the moment is not too big for this team, that you guys are ready to perform on this level?
I think the kids are ready to play. A lot of them have that taste in their mouth from last year and then taste in their mouth from 2 years ago. Rightfully, I think we were the best team around in 2011, and we lost a close one the same way, field goal at the end. We tip it. We don't knock it down. Last year we lost to a better Brookville team. They were just better than we were, and we lost. And I'll be the first to admit it. But it's really good for my program, our program, to be able to be consistent and win and go back to the state playoffs and it's an unbelievable feat to go 3 times in a row. I don't know any teams in this area have done that 3 times in a row. So I'm really proud of my kids and my program and my school.
You guys got to like the routine factor of it. I'm betting you'll still be in the same locker room you've been in the last 2 years. You'll still want to be in the same side, and just to be able to go down there and know this is where we're going to be, this is what it looks like, this is sort of the routine.
We're going to go to the same place for meals. We're going to go to the same place to practice. We're going to go to the same place to watch the movie. We'll do a few different things just to break the routine up. But it's
He's a man
really
of streaks.
special.
You can't change that.
It's really special to do what we're doing. And
yeah.
like I said, and I'm not bragging. I'm proud of my kids. I'm really, really proud of these kids, and I'm proud of my program.
And justifiably so. I mean, it's incredibly impressive to have to made the 3 straight state championship games, even to have made 3 straight semifinal games is a big deal. So,
I think of those 3 years, I think this is the year you look at, and you guys should take a lot of pride in it. And how they've responded and so on to sort of come maybe from a team that I'm sure you believe that maybe a lot of outsiders didn't believe it, that this is another JM state championship game team, but here they are.
We had so many things. We had so many questions we had to have answered, and one obviously was the running game, and we still haven't answered that yet. But, when you have Jay Scroggins, you can do anything. Because Scroggins and our receiving core, they've carried us the whole year. And, of course, the defense has done their part, and David Ditt. Where would we be without David Ditt?
These kids have really relished the underdog role all year, right? I mean,
Yes, sir.
I was talking to some of them today, and this is something that they're really eager to go out there and play this game because no one's really given them a shot. And they've beaten Lafayette. They've beaten, who they beat last week, Heritage. They're both number 1 seeds. This is a game that they can win because they've got it in their hearts that they're going to, perform. And I think that these kids are
are ready to go just from talking to them today.
Excellent. Well, Coach, congratulations on a great season.
Thank you.
Keep it up. It's not over. Certainly hope that we can have you back next week. Either way, the invitation is out there, but
love to come back.
would like to see some hardware when you come back.
With a W.
Yeah, yeah.
Can we get rings too?
Yes, I'll put you on the order list. I don't let my kids talk too much about that. We noticed in the papers, Lafayette did a lot of talking about state championship runs, and Heritage in their papers did a lot of talking about championship runs. And I told my kids, we're not talking about that. We're talking about the next opponent, the next game. You have to focus and win one game at a time. You can't look down the line. You can't talk about, well, we're going to win a state championship. We just don't want to talk about that. And I kept my kids focused, and I think I have a great coaching staff to help me keep them focused. And we're ready for this game too. And they, like I said, they may be loaded on defense, but still they haven't met Jay Scroggins and my receivers.
Well, again, Coach, congratulations and good luck. We certainly are very proud of what you've been able to accomplish. I don't think anyone can question the fact that you're able to get that team prepared, and that these kids have certainly responded just in an absolutely incredible fashion. So
Thank you very much.
Congratulations on that. Well, that'll do it for this week's edition of the Gridiron Report. Certainly appreciate the time from Coach Serbay. Hopefully we didn't take away from practice time, but I appreciate that you're able to join us here. Also want to thank great folks from the Freelance Star and FLS Varsity, Nathan Warters, Justin Rice. Also very happy to announce that we will be partnering with the Freelance Star with a weekly studio sports show for high school sports starting in January. So please look forward. We look forward to that. Hope that you find that exciting and informative. And join us again next week when we recap the state championship games, and maybe we'll also try to announce some of the all-area players. That'll be next week on the Gridiron Report. For the Riverbend Sports Network, I'm Mark Coleman. Thanks for watching, everyone.